Well, my loves, how are you? I've been getting a lot of questions lately around should I talk to the divine masculine? Should I block the divine masculine? Should I reciprocate communication? And they've been coming from a lot of different areas and in a lot of different ways. So I wanted to actually address this today from that higher self perspective, okay? Because that's going to be a really supportive piece for you to bring in. First off, I want to start out by saying literally, legitimately, no one can tell you if you should or should not communicate with anyone, especially your counterpart, okay? It's really actually about building that inner trust. And one of the things I'm going to offer a couple like guiding processes, and it's really about checking in to see if the communication is going to also be equally supportive for you. Okay. Because this is where we really drop into that unconditional love energy. And this is where you want to decide for yourself this unconditional love energy includes you. So if the communication is going to be supportive for you, and you believe it will be supportive for them, that is a nice time to partake in that communication. If you're receiving guidance to take a step back into self care and to maybe go into quiet mode, then you honor that. If you feel guided to initiate communication and you're okay with potentially not receiving any reciprocation, and you know that you're in a space where you're doing it for the right energetic reasons, then by all means, go ahead and move forward. And if you're not certain, it's okay to not do anything. Or if you're feeling pulled to do something specific, then allow yourself to go through that because there's lots of different layers to this process. There have actually been times in my experience where I was guided to just be quiet and then all of a sudden got a very strong guidance that I needed to do something. And I actually was in my own bit of resistance around it. And then it would literally feel like my higher self took over and orchestrated conversations or events or me being in a certain place at a certain time that like really didn't make any sense. And so if you're curious or you're uncertain, you can always surrender to your higher power and to your highest self and allow whatever is in the highest alignment to occur. One of the other questions that's been happening that I saw yesterday was around, do I block my divine masculine out if he's coming into my thoughts or into my dreams? This is also really about what is supportive for you. And what I found is any of these things that are coming up, the running, the chasing, the blocking, the freezing, whatever is coming up in your system ultimately is there to support you with knowing where to drop into stabilizing yourself in a neutral manner. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with these things coming up. It is what it is. Okay. We can't know what we need to work on until it presents itself. So if these things come up, it's okay. Be gentle with yourself, take a step back and really take the time to check in with yourself. And there may come points in time where you feel multiple things about the same experience. Okay. This is also normal as we're moving into our multidimensional self, as we're getting to know all of who we are. Because in reality, in this reality, we have different layers to the truth. And what I mean by that is, yes, there's the ultimate truth, right? So, say that you know this is your divine counterpart, twin flame. We're just going to roll with it like this, okay? Just bear with me. You know, at a soul level, this person has a very deep soul connection to you. You've been guided that this is your divine counterpart. Okay. You know that at a soul level, there's a definite connection. Okay. But in the physical world, you might not have any communication or contact. So, in the middle ground, in say the 5D or in the higher realms, you're in constant energetic communication. They're coming into your dreams, you feel their energy, you're hearing songs, you just the environment around you in the physical world feels like their energy in essence. Okay. And that's like that higher self energy coming into physical reality. Okay. Even though their physical form and their physical body and their full human self may not be speaking to you in any way, shape, or form. Those are three different truths. Do you get what I'm saying? And so, like, yes, at the higher levels, everything's one. But in the physical world, we're all our own sovereign beings. And so those are two truths, right? And it's important that we allow ourselves to navigate the different layers of truth. Okay. And this is kind of coming with something that I think is very important. You hear that saying, fake it till you make it. And I'm here to unravel that saying around fake it till you make it, because I feel like I have found it's actually very important to not dissociate from the truth. The more we just drop into the truth of where we actually are without judgment of ourselves, it'll actually support us in being able to move into the embodiment of where we actually want to be, so we don't have to fake it and pretend that we have things the way that we want them when we don't. Because what happens when we fake it or we pretend we're happy when we're really not is we're actually, in a sense, in a form of self betrayal. Okay. Because what you're doing is kind of sending that signal like, I'm happy, I'm fine, everything's great. But internally, your energy is speaking a completely different language. So, I'm also going to say, do not judge yourself if you've done this in the past, or even if you're doing it now. I just want you to look at it from a different perspective. Okay. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Okay. I get this concept of like fake it till you make it, where it's like envisioning yourself and the results of what you want to be in, right? So set the intention, take that piece of that fake it till you make it, kind of clear out the fake it part, and actually just intend to make it to who you want to be. Okay. Set that intention of knowing, this is how I want to handle this situation. This is how I would like to interact with this person in my life. This is, how I want to hold and carry myself in the world. Okay. Um, Set that intention and then be willing to open up and say, okay, this is where I'm not able to do that yet. That's okay. I'm not going to fake it. I'm going to be all the way real with myself, and I'm going to hold myself through this. And I'm actually going to build the muscle to learn how to do it. Okay. So it all kind of intersects with this concept of power versus force. Okay. And what I mean by that, it's like actually getting into your power versus trying to force something to be something that it's not. Okay. And this kind of coincides with this idea, should I block my masculine out of my dreams or my thoughts? This is going to come down to what is supportive for you. Okay. Because if you're needing to put a boundary up so that you can focus on yourself and be healthy with yourself, then by all means, set that boundary. You could even say, okay, I can't do this in this way energetically because it's a distraction. But if you want to have a real, genuine conversation, call me and let's have a real, genuine 3D physical world conversation. It's okay to set those energetic boundaries or standards for yourself if the current circumstances are hurtful for you. Okay. But also, here is another level and layer and perspective. And there's going to be many in between. These are just simple potentials I'm throwing out at you. They are not by means all of the truth. Okay. There could also be the other side of it that maybe you're thinking, well, my masculine's not in my physical world and he's not talking to me, so I should just block him out and cut him off and have nothing to do with him on any level and just move on and date someone else and do something different. Okay. That's okay if that's in alignment with you and that feels genuinely true to you. And you're doing it from an unconditionally loving space for yourself and for your counterpart. Okay. But if you are doing it because you are trying to control the energy or you're feeling like something's wrong with you because the connection is there, this may be actually an opportunity to realize the energy is still there between you because there's still more for you to learn and gain from the connection and the experience. Okay. Because I'm a firm believer that if a connection is still present, or the energy of a connection is still present, even after all the unraveling, even after the dissolving, even after large amounts of time of no communication, if the energy still keeps cycling back around and representing itself, to me, that is an indication that there is still something to learn. There's still something present. There's still something that's needing to be completed. Or there's still genuinely a soul contract at play, and it's going to circle back around in divine timing. Okay. So when I talk about this power versus force energy, it's about bringing the energy of your responses back to yourself in learning how to navigate the different dimensions of yourself and your emotions instead of just blindly reacting in the ways that we used to. And what I mean by that is, I think many of us, including myself, when I didn't know how to navigate the full potential of these energies, it was confusing. Okay. And it felt like, well, I'm feeling one thing in the energy, and then the total opposite is happening in the physical world. And it felt very, very confusing and overwhelming because the two things were not lining up in any way, shape, or form. And for a time while I was trying to sort through that, I was kind of stuck. Okay. But at the same time that I felt stuck, I was actually learning. So I wasn't as stuck as I thought I was. And so I want to bring that part to you. This is more about stretching out. Like when you feel like you have two potentials or you have two things in front of you and they feel extreme, talk to this person or cut them off, but neither of them feels quite right in the moment. Give yourself space and grace to sort through what is true for you. Okay. And if you have anxiety attached to it, you may want to give yourself a little bit of space to work through that. Okay. But on the other hand, if you have sat with this contemplation for quite some time and the anxiety is still present, well, then it might be an indication that it actually makes sense to take action and open up to the communication and see where it goes. What I encourage you to do in these situations is to just be in a space where you're working towards not having any expectations around what you receive in return in the conversation. Whatever you are choosing to open up, if you are choosing to open up, do it in a way that's for yourself. And what I mean by that is that you feel that it's in alignment with your truth, in your heart, and your well being. And even if your full intention is to open communication for healing and camaraderie and reciprocity, and you have every best intention in the whole world, just know that they may or may not be in a space to be able to receive that at that moment, but that's okay. All right. It may be time for you to be silent and it may be time for you to open up. Okay. There's not any one wrong or right way. What you want to do is whatever happens, whatever you choose, trust that it happened for a reason. Trust that you're going to learn from it and trust that you're going to continue to grow in this process and gain more and more of the truth for yourself. Okay. I hope this is helpful because I think it's to me, what I've discovered, it's not so much about it being right or wrong. It's about the process and what you're learning about yourself, what you're learning about your connection, and what you're learning about your truth. Okay. And it's bringing me back to some of those videos I did earlier this week around one, realizing that your muscle has built more than you've realized, and maybe you are ready to open back up, right? And on the other hand, maybe we've been compartmentalizing things a bit while we were getting stable in ourself. And so now you're ready to unpack some of those containers and reorganize where you've compartmentalized things. There is a lot of different potentials. But when we drop into our power, into our center, into our heart, into our truth, instead of trying to force something to be what we think it should be, we actually empower ourselves to start to receive the results of what we're actually wanting to experience in our lives. Okay. Because in this, I'm talking about the counterpart connections, but this is actually true for everything I've found is that trying to force myself to be ready to be something I'm not yet actually only served to make me feel more unworthy or more set back. But when I dropped into just saying, you know what, that's where I want to be and I'm not there yet, that's okay. Because you know what? I have the space to teach myself how to get there. I am going to put in the energy and the effort and the resources and the time to create and build the muscle and the wisdom and the intelligence to gain the wisdom and the knowing to be able to sustain what it is that I want. And if you can drop into that process with yourself for yourself, it's going to help you in every area of life. Okay. Now, say you want to be a doctor, you don't know how to be a doctor out of the gate. Well, maybe some of you do, but I'm just saying, most people, like, you're going to have to go to school, you're going to have to get your books, you're going to have to go through the training and the residency and a whole bunch of training and muscle building in order to be able to be a full-blown doctor, right? We don't think anything of that. It's like, oh, there's a school for that. It gives me something to do. It gives me a container to focus on. Someone created a container to help me become a doctor. So now I know where to focus my energy. Okay. This is the same thing with learning to trust yourself, okay? Except for you're the one creating your own container. You're creating your own schooling and training. Well, because it's you. And in all reality, the only person who can build trust with yourself is you, right? So there's certain parts of this process that are just done alone. They just have to be done alone. But the wonderful thing about that process of learning it and trusting yourself, that hard won wisdom is something that will just become you. And no one will ever be able to take that from you. And this is how you build tremendous confidence in who you are, loves. This is how you build that confidence in knowing where to set boundaries, where to trust that it's okay to leave the energy open and keep learning. Trusting that it might be a dance that tomorrow I need to block this energy and focus on myself and rebalance and harmonize and neutralize the emotions that I have up. But once I do that, I can open back to the connection in the new energy. Okay. We are in this process of constant growth, even when we're quiet, even when we're resting. Growth is happening beneath the surface. Okay, loves? So, this work that you're doing is very powerful. And the questions that you're asking are very powerful because what it's helping you do by asking these questions is maybe not getting the exact answer from me or anyone else externally. But I can certainly share some of the steps I've taken in my process to my self truth, into building that trust with myself and my higher power. Okay. And like I've said, there's something about that. The more that I've dropped into that, there are moments where I am completely aware that my higher self is in control. It happened a couple weeks ago. I was like laying down meditating, and all of a sudden I sat up and I made a phone call and I had a conversation with a friend that was totally unexpected, but ended up being very important and powerful for both of us. And I knew during it that there was a higher power orchestrating it because it just flowed in that way. But it wasn't something I was even planning or anticipating happening. It just happened all of a sudden. Okay. So also know that your higher self is in the process of orchestrating things for you as well. And it's about building that muscle and that self trust with allowing these processes to unfold and happen for you and with you. Okay. Again, I'm going to say it again, dropping into your power, knowing that there's nothing you need to force. Okay. If there's something you're feeling like you want to shut down within yourself, say you're trying to learn how to be more mindful or more aware of your emotions. And so you're in this process of wanting to move out of your head and your logical thoughts. Okay. This is something I think many of us do is we're trying to retrain ourselves. You may find as you're going along and your thoughts come up that you want to try to shut it down or say like, oh, it's bad. Like I'm getting into my thoughts and my logical mind is kicking in. I'm going to ask you to pan out, take a breath, and reassess the situation. Release the resistance to your mind, release the resistance to the logic, embrace that part of yourself and say, look it, I know logic that you've been running the show. You've been running the vehicle for a very long time. You're used to being in control, and I respect you and appreciate how far you've gotten me. Okay. And I still need you because I still have to live in this world. But right now, I want to give my intuition some space and time to develop and strengthen. And in this process, I would like you to be present to learn along with me. I want to embrace the logic as I'm strengthening the intuition. So let's all sit together and release the resistance to one another, right? Because for a long time, many of us growing up in that logical world, we ignored or resisted our intuition, thinking it was going to get us in trouble, right? And now many of us are opening up and wanting to tap into that higher power and that intuitive ability and knowing. And then we get into that mode, which is awesome and gorgeous and beautiful. I mean, it's what I do, right? So, of course, you know I love it. But I'm here with you right now because I still also embrace my logical side. I give it a seat at my table, okay? Because I'm still navigating this world. I still have to take care of myself and put food on my table, and pay my bills and drive my car and do very physically logical things, okay? So we want to embrace all of who we are, not resisting anything. Okay. So when things come up that you want to resist, whether it's internally or externally, take that as a sign to take a step back and start to hold space for yourself to release the resistance. Okay. This may happen. Say there's a scenario where you don't feel safe. Okay. So you would say, Danielle, like, I need to get myself out of that situation. My walls go up. My resistance is like, hold up, I need to go. I 100% agree with you. Please, by all means, do it. Okay. You're in danger. You want to resist that danger, keep it moving. Okay. When you get yourself to a safe space, and it might not even be when you get yourself comfortable, okay? And it might not be an immediate danger. It could just even be a situation where you don't want to participate in that anymore. Maybe it's not feeding you or serving you or helping you. Maybe it's hurtful, okay? Maybe you're not in danger, but it hurts. And you need some space and time to go sort that out for yourself. Whatever the scenario is where you're feeling the need to resist, it's not that the resistance is bad. Okay, also roll with me on this. The resistance is there telling you something doesn't feel right. Okay. So we want to listen to that. And then we take a step back and we say, okay, I'm going to sit with myself. What is coming up for me? What can I focus on? Where can I learn healthy boundaries for myself? Where do I want to run? And how can I show up for myself in those spaces? Okay. So if it's a situation where somebody just made you uncomfortable because they triggered an emotion, say, and you didn't previously know how to set boundaries for yourself, you might sit at home for a little while, reassess that situation. Say you realize, like, oh my gosh, that went back to a pattern from when I was 12. And you start reparenting your 12-year-old self and you work with that energy. And now you feel more confident and comfortable, like you might reevaluate that situation and think about, oh, instead of being more passive, I could have been more assertive and I could have said X, Y, and Z and just set a very healthy boundary with that person. Okay. And so you might find through these situations that opportunities present that give you the chance to build the muscle. Okay. But the reason I'm bringing up the resistance around it, it doesn't necessarily mean to run away from that person forever. Okay. I mean, unless they're really abusing you or hurting you, please do. You get what I mean? But if it's just a trigger that's fixable and some of it is your part, then you may be able to go back, have a new conversation and a new boundary, and find that the relationship transforms in a really beautiful way. Okay. So the resistance was there to tell you something is wanting to shift, but then our goal is to actually release the resistance within ourselves. Okay. I hope this is really making sense because I know it's a deep process. Okay. We're going to experience the resistance, but your job is in essence to release the resistance so that you're not getting yourself in a Chinese finger trap. But releasing the resistance doesn't necessarily mean that you're not supposed to have a healthy boundary. Okay. So we can release resistance and have a healthy boundary at the same time. Okay. And for me, the reason I'm bringing this up in this way, this was actually a pocket of an area of energy where I worked very deeply for a few years, actually. And something I'm probably still practicing in certain situations, but I built up enough muscle with it that it's happening pretty effortlessly nowadays. Okay. So it is something that you're learning yourself throughout this process. You're learning how to show up for yourself. You're learning how to release resistance and stop running when you don't need to run. Okay. We're facing our discomforts, we're facing our fears, and through facing the fears, we actually become more strong and confident in trusting ourself, our higher self, our human self, our intuitive self, our logical self, our internal masculine, our internal feminine, and our inner child, and all of those other gorgeous aspects of who you are. I feel like this was a pretty deep one and kind of a long one. I'm not even sure how long it's been, but I'm going to leave it here. I would love to hear from you, of course. And again, I'm going to drop my one on one schedule and the information for the Restoring the Sacred Masculine and Feminine group in the pinned comment. And if you have any questions around those, please let me know. And I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.